So Victor Osimhen showed up yesterday again to help Galatasaray get the all-important victory in the UEFA Champions League match yesterday. 3-0 was the final score as Galatasaray completely blew away Ajax Football Club. And that has ultimately led to the club firing their coach, John Hettinger, who I feel very sorry for, because Osimhen's performance has cost him his job. Getting into that game again, it was full of respect for Osimhen. His pre-match conference, he was sounding the alarm that his team needs to mark Victor Osimhen because Osimhen is one of the best strikers in the world. He compared Osimhen prior to that match to the likes of Zlatan Ibrahimovic, DJ Drogba, and the likes. And he said that it was going to be a tough test, and then it proved exactly how he said it. Except it was even worse because I mean he got fired at the end of the day. But it's not Osimhen's fault, or it's not his plan to get somebody fired or get somebody's father lose his job. But it's all good. I mean, for Victor Osimhen, he continues his goal scoring form. Scoring in back to back Champions League appearances, winning the Man of the Match award for these performances. He's on a roll. I mean it. He's on a roll in terms of scoring goals at this moment, and he's uh, obviously made the team of the week for the Champions League this week. He narrowly was unable to be crowned the player of the week because Phil Foden got that award for that one. But again, Osimhen came second, which is not a bad place to be, considering everything that has happened and considering that all of these guys that made the team of the week, they were really fantastic, this week. But when you look at what Osimhen is doing right now, he's doing some really great things, some really really great things that his predecessors were unable to do. I'm talking about Nigerian players who played in the Champions League. He's now the second Nigerian striker to have scored a hat trick after Yakubu Ayegbeni broke that record, by scoring a hat trick against Tel Aviv. That was in 2002. So Osimhen is the only other player that has done so, and he did that yesterday night against Ayas Football Club. And then, aside from the Nigerian angle breaking the record or setting a record as the one of two players that have done something like that, he has also set the record in Galatasaray as the second player to have scored in the club's history in the Champions League, the second player to have scored a hat trick. The only other person that had done it was Burak Yilmaz, and that was back in 2012. So Osimhen keeps breaking history, he keeps breaking record, he keeps setting the pace with his character, with his quality, with his passion and effort, with his die-hard mentality. And I'm just so happy for this man that he's getting the recognition for all the work that he's putting in on the pitch. But let's just move past that one, guys, and talk about the other game that happened. Ademola Lookman's Atlanta played out a 1-0 victory, a very narrow 1-0 victory over the likes of Olympic Marseille. And that match was a match that made the headline for the wrong reason for Ademola Lookman and the coach, because a little bit of incident actually occurred when Ademola Lookman was taken off in the second half by the coach, and there appeared to have been some kind of disagreement between Ademola Lookman and the coach. When he was substituted, he marched off and he appeared to have said something, and that's obviously angered the coach, who laid his hand on Ademola Lookman. He kind of held Ademola Lookman back when Ademola Lookman was heading to his seat in the bench, and that resulted in some kind of confrontation between the two. They were facing each other, and the coach was saying that, some things and holding Ademola Lookman. So he felt like it was going to get heated up, and then we saw some officials, fourth officials, coming in to separate the two of them. Again, this just sums up Ademola Lookman's frustration with this Atalanta side. He has said it before. He wanted to leave. He was supposed to have left, but they didn't allow him to go. And then they forced him to come back again, settle the whole issue. He agreed to, okay, come back and be humble and put in all the work to start playing games again. But it just shows the spirit has left this club. Ademola Lookman is no longer there. He's just there in body, but he's not really there. And a lot of people have been reacting to this, but I'm just going to share the one that caught my attention very much, and I kind of resonate with what this ex-footballer has said about the incident between Ademola Lookman and his head coach. So, former Watford striker Troy Deeney, who was on match analysis or punditry duty for that night, had this to say about the incident. He said, altercations happen all the time, but when you physically put your hands on somebody, at that point you're not going to have a conversation again. There's nothing you can say to them today, tomorrow, or next week that will make them forget that you did that to them in front of everyone. We've all had arguments. We've all had frustrations, back and forth, swearing, and all these different things. Said things we don't like, and vice versa. However, no one ever gets to the point of putting their hands on, and that's the point for me. If you want to put your hands on somebody, then just know you face the consequences. So this is what Troy Deeney has come out to say, and he's obviously siding Ademola Lookman in the confrontation because Lookman didn't do anything that is out of the blues. Sometimes we see these things happen. Players get frustrated when they are substituted. Just last week, if you guys recall, Vinicius Junior also did the same thing when Alonso substituted him. He was complaining, said a couple of things, but he didn't go as far as trying to do something out of the ordinary, like maybe touch the coach or go and start pointing him or do something like that. He just said whatever he said and walked straight, to his seat. But Jordan is saying that the coach doesn't have the right to hold Ademola Lookman or touch him or try to attack him or lay his hand on him for whatever reason. Because when you do something like that, then you have obviously crossed the line, and the player will never forget that you put your hands on him, you embarrassed him physically in front of the people. So this is what he has said, and I perfectly resonate with this. I watched that clip, over and over again, and I couldn't find any fault from Ademola Lookman. He got substituted. He was by then it was 0-0. So he was frustrated. Of course, he is normal thing for a footballer. A footballer is always frustrated when he knows that he didn't give his best. When he knows that he could have helped his team maybe get the lead or help the team much more than he did. You can get frustrated. It's not necessarily about the coach, but yes, if you get substituted, you sometimes your frustration might be channeled to the coach because he was the one that substituted you. Maybe you feel like you still have a lot to offer the team. But I agree with what Troy Deeney has said. You have no right as a coach to put your hands or lay your hands on your player because maybe he was complaining after you substituted him. A more immature coach would just chill and then allow everything to allow the match to end and then speak with the player in the dressing room, and that's where he can do whatever he wants. Advise the player or talk to the player or quarrel the player or whatever. But at least that one has more respect or more privacy, rather than coming out in public like that and do something like that. Well, that's by the way. Of course, I said it before. Ademola Lookman has tendered his transfer request for the second time again. He wants to leave the club this January. So obviously, this is the way everything is going. It looks like the club is going to be forced to get rid of Ademola Lookman for the good of all parties. The energy is not there. The rapport, the relationship is not there. They are barely just hanging on. But let's move on, guys, and talk about the playoffs that's coming up on the 13th of March. And the abominable, I would call this abominable because it's something that shouldn't be happening. Right now, CAF has moved to assign South African referees, South African officiating team, and and also I think one Benin Republic referee assessor for the match between Nigeria versus Gabon on the 13th. And this is so inappropriate. It feels so wrong that uh, at this level of playing a very important match, such as that World Cup playoffs coming up, looks kind of fishy because I don't understand why CAF will go on and appoint a South African referee who goes by the name Tom Abongjile as a center referee, and then Makalima Akona Zenith as a VAR, and then Siwela Zakile and Tusi Granville as assistant referees. All of these guys, these four people, they are South African officiating team, and it's so incredibly wrong, because I mean we know the history between Nigeria and South Africa, particularly in this recently concluded World Cup qualifying groups. It was very clear that South Africa had an issue with Nigeria, so also Nigeria, had an issue with South Africa. And again, we recently we saw what a sitting minister in South Africa said about the Super Eagles, which obviously, was very inappropriate the way it came out. And now CAF is going to get an all South African refereeing assistant, except the referee assessor, who's a Benin Republic person, huge Alain. And to be honest, we are not even supposed to have any of the officiating personnel from either of South Africa or Benin Republic because we just finished in the same group with these countries, and it's not appropriate. So, but that's what CAF has done now, and it's looking like something that is fashioned to not favor the Super Eagles. But I hope that that is not going to be the case. But let's move on, guys, and talk about Stanley Nwabali and how he has now come out to react to the African Cup of Nations coming up in December. Of course, he was one of the stars selected by CAF to give some kind of a preliminary media coverage, regarding the Nations Cup, which is definitely close by. But Sani Wabali, when he appeared for Super Sports in their show, he was asked what he thinks the chances of the Super Eagles are for this Nations Cup in December. And he said very boldly that, that he expects, the team to really go far, go very far. In fact, he expects them to go on and win the title because of what happened the last time. We went as far as the second place. So why not? He feels that this time around he has a feeling that the Super Eagles will go all out and win the title. But he's also maintaining that he doesn't think that it's going to be easy. He doesn't think that the Super Eagles are the number one contenders. If he knows that they are number one favorites, but he knows that there are other countries who are strong and considered even more favorites than Nigeria, but he believes that we are going all out to win it because we are a big country, we are a big nation, we have the history, and for a country like Nigeria, there is nothing that's going to impress anybody, not the country, not the citizens, not the FA, not the coach, not even the players themselves, than going all out and winning the title. That's the one task that he feels that they have to do, and he believes that they can do it.